start of winter, the forest was a world of silence and shadows. Fair moved with practiced grace, her steps barely disturbing the snow beneath her feet. The cold air bit at her cheeks, but she paid it no mind. Her focus was singular survival. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught her eye. A deer, its coat blending seamlessly with the winter landscape, grazed near a thicket of bare trees. Fair's heart pounded in her chest, a rhythmic echo in the stillness of the forest. She nocked an arrow, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. Hunger, a relentless gnawing in her stomach, spurred her on. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw it, a massive wolf, its fur as dark as midnight, standing still as a statue. The wolf's eyes met hers, a silent challenge hanging in the air. Fair's grip on her bow tightened. Was this creature truly a wolf, or something more sinister, something fey? Her mind raced. The tales of fey wolves, creatures of magic and malice, flooded her thoughts. But hesitation was a luxury she couldn't afford. She had to think of her family, of their survival. With a deep breath, she steadied her aim. The ash arrow, a weapon known to harm fey, felt heavy in her hands. The wolf watched her, unblinking, almost as if it understood the gravity of the moment. Time seemed to stretch, each second an eternity. Fair's fingers tightened around the bowstring. She released the arrow, her heart lurching as it flew through the air. The arrow struck true, embedding itself in the wolf's side. The creature let out a haunting, almost human-like howl before collapsing into the snow. Fair stood there, breathless, the weight of what she'd done settling over her. Had she just killed a wolf, or had she slain a fey in disguise? The answer would have to wait. For now, she had to survive. She had to keep her family safe. As the snow began to fall again, covering the scene in a blanket of white, Fair turned away, her thoughts a tumult of fear, doubt, and determination. Her journey had only just begun. Welcome to the world of a court of thorns and roses, a realm where mortals and fae coexist in a delicate balance. At the heart of this tale is Fair, a young huntress whose journey is one of survival and discovery. The setting is a land divided by a mysterious wall, separating the human lands from the fae territories, each shrouded in ancient magic and danger. As winter tightens its grip, Fair must venture into the treacherous forest, driven by the need to provide for her family. Her path will lead her to unexpected encounters and a destiny entwined with the very fabric of this mystical world. Join us as we delve into this epic saga of love, betrayal, and magic. Now, let's meet our Huntress. The Huntress and the Wolf. Fair stood over the massive wolf she had just killed, uncertainty gnawing at her. Was it a fairy? She couldn't be sure. She decided to skin the wolf. The hide will surely fetch a good price at the market. Returning home, Fair's shoulders slumped under the weight of the deer and the wolf hide. The small cottage, its windows dark and lifeless, loomed before her. Inside, her family awaited her return. Her father, lost in his own world of bitterness, and her sisters, Nesta and Ellen, as different from Fair as the sun and the moon.
Took you long enough.
Nesta sneered, her gaze raking over Fair's worn cloak and mud-caked boots.
Did you find anything, Fair?
Elaine, ever the peacemaker, offered a hesitant smile. Fair's jaw tightened. She loved her sisters, but their lack of understanding, their inability to grasp the gravity of their situation, fueled a simmering resentment within her. A rabbit? Maybe two, she lied, hefting the deer and the wolf hide onto the table. The deer, once gutted and cleaned, hung from a hook in the rafters. Its lifeless body swayed gently, a stark reminder of the harsh realities of survival in these unforgiving lands. Fair worked quickly, her movements efficient and practiced. Each slice of her knife was precise, a testament to the countless hours she had spent honing her skills. She had no time to waste. Every second counted in this relentless struggle for survival. She could feel her father's eyes on her, but his gaze held no warmth, only a dull resentment that mirrored the dying embers in the hearth. His once vibrant spirit had been extinguished, leaving behind a hollow shell of the man he used to be.
You should have been back sooner. It's not safe out there after dark. The woods are filled with dangers that lurk in the shadows, waiting to pounce on the unwary.
Fair bit back a retort. She knew arguing would be pointless. Her father's concern, though masked in frustration, was genuine. But she had no choice. The forest was her only means of providing for her family. Her father, once a respected merchant, had retreated into himself after his fortune had crumbled. The weight of their circumstances had crushed his spirit, leaving him a mere shadow of his former self. Now he was but a shadow of the man he used to be. His clothes, once fine and tailored, were now worn and threadbare. His eyes, once filled with ambition and hope, were now clouded with despair. "I can take care of myself." Her voice was steady, filled with a quiet determination that belied her years. She had grown up too fast, forced to shoulder responsibilities that should never have been hers. She muttered, her fingers working deftly to skin the deer. Each movement was a dance of survival, a testament to her resilience and strength. She knew her words were true. She had faced the dangers of the forest and emerged victorious time and time again. She was a survivor, a warrior in her own right. In the unforgiving wilderness that bordered their village, Fair had become a force to be reckoned with, a hunter born of necessity. She had learned to navigate the treacherous terrain, to track and hunt with a precision that was unmatched. The forest was her domain, and she had mastered it through sheer will and determination. Later that night, as the moon cast long, eerie shadows across the frost-covered ground, Fair sat beside her mother's grave. The cold seeped through her worn cloak, but she barely noticed. Her mother's death, years ago, left a hole in their family, even if Fair herself had never really had a loving relationship with her mother. What her mother really cared about, almost more than anything else, is their status and their wealth, something that Nesta surely had inherited from her. Thankfully, her mother died before they had lost all of their wealth. It would surely break her if she could see them now. "I won't let them starve, Mother, I promise," Fair said. The promise made at her mother's deathbed when she was but a child was a lifeline, a vow that kept Fair going even when hope seemed lost. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her, heavy and suffocating, but Fair refused to let it break her. She would protect her family, no matter the cost. She had made a promise, and Fair was not one to break her word. The next day, Fair braved the icy wind, her steps carrying her towards the village market, with Nesta and Elaine following in her wake, the two of them knowing that Fair will fetch some money at the market today for her hunting efforts the day before. The air buzzed with activity, the shouts of vendors and the clatter of carts creating a chaotic symphony. Fair clutched the coins in her pocket, their weight a meagre comfort.
"You looking to hire some protection, girl?"
A burly mercenary, her face scarred and weathered, leaned against a nearby stall.
Fair shook her head, clutching her meager coins tighter.
"I can't afford protection, but what can you tell me about your business? Have you dealt with the Fae?"
"Hi, girl. I've had my share of run-ins with those Fae. These scars? Got them from a skirmish with a Fae warrior. They're not to be trifled with. They're cunning and ruthless. If you ever cross paths with one, you better be prepared. My business? Protecting folks like you from the dangers that lurk beyond the wall."
As Fair, Nesta, and Elaine were entering the market, they noticed a group of fairies, human-like, but covered head to toe in armor. They were the children of the Blessed, Fae warriors, come here from Prithian, the magical land that lay beyond. As dusk fell, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, the village began to quiet down, the hustle and bustle of the day giving way to the serene whispers of the night. The air was cool, carrying the scent of pine and earth, mingling with the distant sounds of nocturnal creatures awakening. Fair made her way to the outskirts of the village, her steps light but purposeful. She moved with the grace of someone who had spent countless hours navigating the forest, her senses attuned to every rustle and shadow. The village behind her was a place of safety, but out here, beyond the familiar, lay the unknown. There in the shadow of the wall, she was to meet Isaac Hale, a fur trader who paid a pittance for the pelts of the creatures that roamed the woods beyond. The wall, an ancient barrier separating her world from the magical lands of Prithian, loomed ominously, a silent guardian of secrets and dangers. Isaac wasn't a good man, but he was predictable, and he paid in cash. His eyes were always calculating, his demeanour cold and untrusting, yet in this harsh world, predictability was a rare and valuable trait. Fair knew she could count on him to keep their transactions discreet. He also asked no questions, which was why Fair sold him the pelts of creatures that she knew no ordinary animal could have slain. These were not just any pelts, they were from creatures that defied the natural order, their fur shimmering with an otherworldly glow, hinting at the magic that coursed through their veins, creatures that whispered of Prithian, of the magic that thrummed just beyond the wall. The forest was alive with secrets, and every pelt Fair brought to Isaac was a testament to the hidden wonders and dangers that lay just out of reach. The wall was not just a physical barrier, it was a boundary between the mundane and the extraordinary. "You're playing with fire, girl," Isaac rasped, his eyes lingering on Fair for a moment too long. His voice was rough, like gravel, and his warning was laced with genuine concern, though it was buried beneath layers of self-interest. He knew the risks as well as she did, perhaps even better. Fair ignored him, counting the coins he'd given her. Each coin was a lifeline, a means to keep her family fed and warm through the harsh winter months. She had no room for fear or hesitation. Survival demanded every ounce of her courage and resourcefulness. She knew the risks, but what choice did she have? The forest was her hunting ground, and the pelts were her currency. Every trip beyond the wall was a gamble, but it was one she was willing to take. Her determination was a shield against the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. Her family's survival depended on it. They were counting on it, and she would not let them down. The weight of responsibility was heavy, but it was also a source of strength. Fair would do whatever it took to ensure their safety, even if it meant venturing into the unknown, facing the magic and mystery that lay just beyond. Back at the cottage, the fire had burned down to embers. Nesta sat by the window, her face pale in the flickering light. Elaine huddled on a stool near the hearth, her eyes wide and frightened. The atmosphere crackled with unspoken tension. "What happened?" Fair asked, her voice tight with apprehension. Nesta's gaze darted to her, then away.
"We had visitors," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Faye."
Fair's blood ran cold. What were the children of the Blessed doing at their cottage? A knot of fear twisted in Fair's stomach. Had they seen her in the woods? Did they know about her dealings with Isaac? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. The Fae were not known for their mercy. A deafening roar shattered the silence, shaking the very foundations of the cottage. The walls trembled as if they were made of paper, and the air was thick with the scent of fear and anticipation. The once peaceful night was now filled with an ominous energy, a prelude to the chaos that was about to unfold. The door burst open, splintering into pieces. Wood flew in all directions, and the sound echoed like a thunderclap. It was as if an unstoppable force had decided to make its presence known, leaving no room for doubt or hesitation. A figure, tall and imposing, filled the doorway. His silhouette was a dark contrast against the dim light, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and twist with a life of their own. The very air around him seemed to hum with a dangerous energy. His eyes, twin pools of molten gold, blazed with a fearsome light. They pierced through the darkness, revealing a depth of power and ancient wisdom that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Those eyes held secrets of a world long forgotten, a world where magic and danger walked hand in hand. Fair's breath caught in her throat. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat a reminder of the peril she now faced. She had heard tales of such beings, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of standing before one. He was Fey, his features both beautiful and terrifying. His pointed ears and sharp features gave him an ethereal quality, but there was an edge to his beauty, a hint of danger that made her skin prickle with unease. He was a creature of legend, standing before her in all his fearsome glory. He moved with a predatory grace that sent chills down his spine. Each step was deliberate, calculated, as if he were a hunter closing in on his prey. The room seemed to shrink around him, the shadows deepened with each movement. This was no ordinary affair. This was something more ancient, more powerful. His very presence radiated an aura of authority and strength, a reminder of the old magic that still lingered in the world. He was a being of immense power, and he had come for a reason. This was Tamlin, High Lord of the Spring Court. His title alone commanded respect and fear, but it was his demeanour that truly set him apart. He was a ruler, a warrior, and a guardian of his realm, and he would stop at nothing to protect it.
"Which one of you murdered my emissary?" he snarled, his voice a low growl that reverberated through the room. The accusation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. His eyes scanned the room, searching for any sign of guilt or fear.
Terror, sharp and cold, pierced Fair's heart. She felt as if the ground had been pulled from under her feet, leaving her suspended in a void of dread. The weight of his words crushed her, and she struggled to breathe. She knew in that instant that their lives had changed forever. The world she had known was gone, replaced by a new reality filled with danger and uncertainty. There was no going back, only forward into the unknown. They were caught in a web of magic and danger, and there was no escape. The path ahead was shrouded in mystery, and every step would be a test of their courage and resolve. The journey had just begun, and the stakes had never been higher.